So the neighborhood was unhappy, tough, you know, violent, all that stuff. And I read a lot, because if I went outside, I'd get beat up. So, you know, writing often begins in misery. Maybe that was it. We were hard up, unhappy, and it was tough outside and scary. So at the end of 4th grade, my parents decided to finally move away from the border, and we moved to a white working class suburb called Claremont in San Diego. And those people who've read Into the Beautiful North, there's a scene, or are reading it, there's a scene in the book where the adventurers from the book have finally gotten to San Diego, and they go to Mission Bay Park, and they see lawns. And they are floored by the green grass. Well, that was me. I realized that until 5th grade, I had never seen green lawns before. We got up to this Claremont, and I looked around, and I thought, dang, these people are millionaires, man. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I've never forgotten it. I still love a nice lawn, because it was a revelation to me. It's like they put water on their ground. It's unbelievable. We got a little house, moved into our first house, $18,000 back then. And my father started trying to negotiate not being on the border, not being among Mexicans, and it kind of flipped him out a little bit. We were the first mixed family in this neighborhood. We didn't look it, but it was strictly on behavior and accent. Because he could have passed as the Irish boy, he almost was. But my father had brought with him a small town Mexico mentality, a kind of a communal spirit. And that dictated things that didn't go over well with my neighbors. Some of you, I know, have a whole influx of new neighbors that people are trying to negotiate with. So the cultural differences can be daunting. One of them, for us, was my dad just thought, if you come home, he worked late at night at the bowling alley, got home 1 or 2 in the morning, you're tired, you come driving down the street, neighbor's driveway is empty, what the heck, just park in his driveway. Right? And my neighbors didn't like that. And I remember a neighbor coming over in the morning and pounding on the door, getting my dad out of bed, get your damn car out of my driveway. And he went out, his hair standing straight up, got in the car, parked it in our driveway, and he came in, he looked at me and he said, you see, they're racists. And I thought, wow, here's the key to cultural misunderstanding right here, right? He was, and people were a little bit casual in their more racist attitudes around that time. I heard names I'd never heard before. I was called names I'd never been called before, which was probably why I speak like this now. Because when you're in 5th grade and people are starting to call you all these horrible names, it's a shock. And everybody told me Tijuana was filthy and disease-ridden and place of prostitutes. You know everything about Tijuana. They smoke horse dung cigarettes. I didn't know any of this stuff. I thought, really? I thought that's where Grandma lived. I thought, that's my hometown. Really? It's bad? It's nasty? Mexicans are dirty? Really? I was shocked. Mexicans spit on the floor. We do? You don't know, right? They had names for us which I've never heard anywhere else. One of them was Taco Bender, which I thought was pretty creative, right? I make a little taco with a curved tortilla. I had cousins from Mexico who'd come visit with us, and this guy called my cousin Jaime, hey, Taco Bender. And Jaime, not knowing how to come back at a food-oriented insult, said, oh yeah, you cheeseburger? Trying to negotiate, you know. So, I had gone to school, 5th grade, just beginning school, you know, it was maybe my 3rd day of school. And this kid says to me, greaser wetback. And I looked at him, you know, and I thought, wow, yeah, okay, I can deal with that. You know, you're a kid. But as a child, you're a concrete thinker, right? You take things seriously. And I was trying to sort of maintain my composure, but I couldn't figure it out. Wetback greaser. And I started thinking that I must have grease on me. I must have grease, like a spot on my back. And I actually, halfway through school, went in the bathroom to see if I could find the grease, and I couldn't find it. And by the end of the day, I was really upset, because I was just this kind of dirty creature. And I walked home. My dad, like I said, was on the night shift. My mom worked days. They weren't getting along anymore, so they tried to keep apart as much as possible, so they'd miss each other on the work schedule. But he was waiting. He was always waiting when I got home from school, about to go to work, smoking those Pall Malls. And I came in, and he looked at me, he said, what's the matter with you? I said, nothing. He said, no, come on. what's wrong with you? I said, nothing, Dad. And he said, you're depressed. What happened? I said, they called me a name. What name did they call you? I said, they call me a greaser, Dad. Greaser, wetback. He said, ah. Now my dad had this habit. When he was going to make a point, he would take a puff of the Pall Mall into his head, and you knew something was coming. And he said, son, in the western expansion across the United States, people came in covered wagons. Wagons made out of wood. Axles made out of wood. Friction would heat up the wood, and the wagons would burn, and they would lose everything. The only people with the advanced technology to grease axles were Mexicans. He said, so if people call you greaser, hold your head up, son. It's a term of pride. He went and got his car and drove to work. And I like to say, I knew even then my dad was lying. But the magic of it wasn't lost on me, that my father could take an insult and that fast use words to try to turn it around and try to lift me back up. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't always sure my dad even liked me that much. He was a very difficult guy. But he used that magic to say, no, come back. I'll never forget it. I will never forget it. Off he went to work.